That's working for you.
Yeah.
You know what? They throw out dates.
Calling to order Health and Family Services Committee.
Mrs. Geiger.
Here.
Ms. Vedder. Mr. Ruiz. Mrs. Edwards. Mrs. Labuda.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I just wanted to mention that October 16th is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Well, the month of October, Domestic Violence Awareness. Safe Passage of Cash is asking people to possibly come, wear purple, and have a moment of silence on October 16th.
Josh is modeling the purple for us today.
How often?
Yes, Ed and Josh.
You said it just on cue. Wearing purple and you up.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the HEAL grant update by Debbie DeJesus.
Jesus.
DeJesus.
We're well into
Veteran.
phase 2 of the HEAL grant program. Unit 1 is presently under construction, as well as the lobby area. So we have successfully have all of our residents relocated from Unit 1 into Unit 2, which was the unit previously renovated.
How many is that?
We have 34.
A lot of people.
Yes, and it was done smoothly. The move went well. We're now actually at the point where the staff, families, and residents have actually adjusted to the fact that we have a temporary entrance, which is the doorway through the side of Unit 2. Signage is all up, etc. We've received a verbal commitment from the construction group and the architects that the goal is to have the lobby done first, is so that we can get the regular flow of traffic into the building back to normal. And let's see. It's really, at this point, shut off, closed. It's as if that part of the building doesn't exist from the standpoint of entrances, exits, work, etc., and it's moving along.
Debbie, I just, I noticed the percent of occupancy now is what is it at?
That, I'm glad you asked that. The percent of occupancy that was listed in the report was reflective of what we actually are able to fill, from 114 as a max at this point versus the previous months. It was reflective of 160, which is not anywhere close at this point with the unit being closed. So like today's census was 109, for example, out of 114.
I just noticed that it went up.
Yeah, we should have probably put an asterisk, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, the second report, homeless housing update.
As far as the number of individuals and families that are, as of October 1st, that are in area motels, we are now at 37 individuals that are at area motels and 15 families. So the total count is 48 adults, 13 male children and 12 female children. So a total of 73 people in motels. That number continues to be reduced, and through the course of this week, the two facilities that we spoke of last month, one of them is operational, and we will be able to move 6 additional individuals into one of those locations. So that should reduce that number to 31. And in preparation of the meeting with New York State Parole later in the month, we've begun to do some preliminary research on the number of individuals paroled back into the county. And through the first 9 months of 2013, we've had 67 individuals released from prisons in New York State back into Sullivan County.
Since when was that?
Since 1/1/13 through 9/30/13. there's been 67 individuals released.
You said that they're back into Sullivan County. Do we have documentation that they actually came from Sullivan County?
We, with the New York State Division of Parole is required to provide us with a notice, I believe it's 10 days in advance of the discharge. When the individuals do not have housing, they are referred to DFS. It does list on the referral the last residents, and a majority of them, large majority, are Sullivan County. Recently, there was an individual whose residence was the state of Pennsylvania. However, because he was charged and convicted in Sullivan County, there is a provision that they can be released to the county in which they were arrested, charged, tried, and convicted. Although that person was, at the time they were arrested and convicted, had been a resident of Pennsylvania.
So are we doing something to change that they leave Pennsylvania and become our people?
Well, I think that's, there is a meeting that has been scheduled with the county attorney's office, various department heads with New York State Division of Parole later in the month of October. What I've been doing is gathering cost information, number information, because we have had to house each of the 67 individuals that have been released. So-
And would you say that the majority of them are Sullivan County residents
The
or the minority?
the large majority have on their documentation Sullivan County residency at the time they were sentenced and went to prison. Now, there's some question as to were they truly a resident at that time? Were they just recently in the community at the time of arrest? But for what we're receiving, it is noting Sullivan County as a residency. But again, because they were convicted, there also was that provision, and I think our most recent person released was actually a resident of the state of Pennsylvania. And what I would imagine is, with the state of Pennsylvania not having a safety net program, they had probably said there's no resources available.
And some of the residents, would they have already been in our shelters, and that's what made them a resident here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So
some of the
they came up here
addresses of
to
the
us as
homeless,
homeless.
correct.
We got them, they went to jail, and that's the reason why we're getting them back.
At the time of arrest, Jerry, I think the question is, were some of them residents in motels, and they were.
Some of them, but some of them weren't. Some of them were just here, they get arrested here, or whether they're peddling drugs here or doing whatever they're doing here. They go to state prison, and then they come out. When they come out, they're considered homeless. So then the state parole is bringing them back to Sullivan County, because this was their last technical address, even though they might be from New York City or they might be from somewhere else.
I think that the problem is that the number that's reflected, 67 releases, I had done some research last year. In 2011, we got 90. And I had looked into why Sullivan County was getting 90. There is a state statute that says if they're prosecuted in Sullivan, that Sullivan will get them back. That accounted for 16 out of the 90. So that still left, the remainder of 70-something. Some come from addresses in Sullivan County that lived here for, X amount of time, but other ones, like you're saying, were here because they were deemed homeless. So at the end of the month, I set up a meeting with the State Commissioner of Parole's office, and I have invited law enforcement and public health to come in. I feel that public health needs to be there to address with the Commissioner of Parole, because when the county attorney's office had inquired through the Commissioner of Parole, they were also released upon the recommendation of the Commissioner of Parole. So we're gonna have a meeting with the office. I had invited public health to come and present, the picture that when these people are sent here, we don't have adequate housing as of yet. We're gonna put these people in a motel. We don't have jobs, we don't have transportation per se. So we want to address that and tell them that, you know, Sullivan County can't adequately provide for these people that are coming in. So that meeting will take place at the end of the month, and in my November committee meeting, I'll have a report back on the outcome.
Great, thank you.
So of the 37 singles that are in motels, 12 of them right now are folks who were paroled back into the community.
Lovely.
Say that again, of the 37?
Of the 37 singles that are in motels right now, 12 are individuals who were paroled back into the community.
Okay, got it. So I really feel we need to address that with the Commissioner of Parole, and I'm hoping that, you know, we can make some headway in, you know, addressing the fact that we don't have the facilities. Scott?
The question is, every other county or everybody in the state falls under the same rules, correct?
Yes.
So we're no
Not
different
just
than
us.
anybody else.
Correct.
So what do we think that we can get any kind of satisfaction from the?
Well, from what I understand, and I have talked to other counties, the counties that have addressed the number that's coming in, have pushed back, have been able to reduce their numbers. So I feel it's worth a try.
I mean, there's two areas that, we had a meeting with parole, regional parole people, and, I mean, what's happening is they'll be in a prison one day, and then they're in our lobby the next day. The question is, and we ran some preliminary numbers, I mean, on average, we're housing them for about 30 days in a motel upon release. The question is, for state parole is, do you have funds to put them in a halfway house setting? So not from, you know, being incarcerated to then living in a motel, but maybe a step in between. You know, is there facilities, halfway houses in Albany that, or somewhere else where they could transition into the community instead of going from full lockup to full,
Great.
you know, entrance into the community with no housing, with no job. So in the answer at the time was, a couple of years ago, parole did have